I am 17 now, but this happened when I was 8. I remember it being a special occasion. Maybe my brother's birthday or my cousin's birthday. We were going to a restaurant that night. It was with the whole family. I remember being super excited to see my cousins. We arrived at the restaurant. We sat at the really long table. I sat next to my brother and my cousin. After a while, me and my cousin got really bored. We decided to leave the table. We walked around the restaurant for a while. We pretty much just talked until a man approached us. He was really tall. He had beard and was wearing a big brown leather jacket. He asked us where we were off to. I was a pretty shy kid, so I didn't really say anything. But my cousin told him we were just bored and wanted to walk around. The man responded with a weird, childish laugh. He told us he had the perfect thing for us. We looked at each other. He walked over to the back of the restaurant. He told us that his car was out there. He said to just stay there. My cousin whispered to me, "I don't think we should be here. We should go back to the table." But before we could leave, the man returned. He looked really upset. I don't even know how his expression changed in less than 15 seconds. He told us in a really deep voice, slightly tilting his head, his eyes wide open without a blink, "It's too heavy. Could you come help me?" At this point, even I was getting suspicious. I grabbed my cousin's hand. My cousin said, "Sorry, our family's about to leave. We have to go." We walked away, not even looking back. My hands were shaking, trying to control my breath. We started speed walking, but our table was all the way on the other side of the restaurant. I turned my head slightly. From the corner of my eye, I could see that man following us. We started walking even faster. We made it to our table. We could see that man just walking around our table. We finally left the restaurant, on our way to the car. Because it was a special occasion, we were all heading to my house afterwards. I was in my mom's car with my cousin. We looked back out the window. The lights of the other car was blinding us. We couldn't tell if that man was still following us in his car. When we made it to my house, everything seemed normal again, my cousin said. There's no way that guy would follow us all the way home. I didn't think he would either, but I still had this weird feeling like someone was watching us. After an hour, my cousin and I were playing in the family room, while the others were in the dining room. In the family room, there was a big glass door that led to the backyard. It was covered by a curtain, though, while we were playing. We heard a tap on the glass door. I went to go slightly peek through the curtain. I shut the curtain immediately. I told my cousin that it was the man from the restaurant. My cousin jumped from his seat. He ran into the dining room and told his mom to call the police. When the police came, the man had run away. They asked me and my cousin a few questions. I didn't know who that man was, but whoever it was must have been a psychopath to follow us all the way home. I'm glad I was with my cousin, because he handled the situation a lot better than I did. This happened a few years before college. I was 17 at the time. I used to work at a restaurant as a waiter. Normally there would be some weird encounters, but this one was for sure the worst. It was a late night, around 8 or 9 p.m. At this hour, it was mainly couples that walked through the doors. I walked over to the table I was serving. Oddly, it was a man by himself, or at least I thought he was by himself, until I turned my head and saw his creepy, lifelike doll. I asked him what he wanted to drink. He responded with a deep, serious voice saying, "I'll have a lemonade." I wrote it down, then turned around to walk away. But as I was taking a few steps away, the man called out, "Excuse me, you forgot my wife." I turned around. I assumed he was joking. I chuckled and then apologized. As I turned my head to face the man, my smile faded. He did not look like he was joking. I asked the doll, "What would you like to drink?" A few seconds passed of absolute silence before the man said, "Did you get that, waiter?" "No, sir," he responded with, "A lemonade." I walked over to the back near the kitchen. I told my friend what happened. He told me, "Just keep it together for the night. The shift is almost over." I went back to the table to ask what they wanted for the main course. The man looked at me with a big smile from ear to ear. then let out a huge laugh. At this point, all the tables around us were looking at us. I asked him again, but this time he grabbed my arm and stopped laughing. He pulled my arm down onto the table and whispered in my ear, "We want you." I swiped my arm away from his reach and backed up towards the wall. He stared at me with an angry look before getting up and standing in front of me with his hands on the wall, yelling, "You think this is funny?" I tried to push him off of me. Eventually, someone called the cops. I watched as they shoved him into the cop car. I quit working there about a month later. This happened a few years back. I was a high school senior. Back in high school, I had a really good friend, Paisley. I would see her at school and then at work later in the evening. But after this incident, I don't know what happened to Paisley. It was a Friday afternoon and I had just finished school. I was on my way to work. I was exhausted enough from all the schoolwork. I was ready to just go home and rest. But unfortunately, I had to go to work. I worked a little later around closing hour. I would normally be the one to lock up, along with Paisley. But on this particular day, there wasn't a lot of people. It was just me, Paisley, and some other customer finishing up their meals. Fast forward to later into the night. Me and Paisley were the only ones left. I was cleaning up the kitchen, and Paisley was wiping down the counters. Typically, we would talk while doing this. Our usual conversations, school, work, prom, and other things. But while we were cleaning, Paisley brought up something I was not entirely comfortable talking about. She mentioned what I would do if I got killed or something terrible happened to me. I didn't really want to talk about it, so I said something quickly, and then changed the topic, but she managed to bring it back up. I eventually got tired of this conversation and asked her why she was asking these questions. She said, "No reason. I wasn't buying that so easily. In fact, I was getting a little scared to be in the same room as her." I moved further into the kitchen. I guess she heard me rapidly moving away. She came into the kitchen, whispering, "Why are you running away from me?" I started speed walking at this point. I could hear her running towards me, and I eventually hid in the freezer. I didn't shut the door all the way, trying to avoid making any noise. I peeked through the freezer door. There she was, holding a kitchen knife. I called 911. It felt like forever waiting for the cops to arrive. They made it to the restaurant. They arrested Paisley. I don't know what caused her to hate me that much that she would want to kill me. We've been best friends since freshman year, so watching her being pushed into a police car was hard to watch.